Auridon Lore, Part 3. The Rise of Queen Ayrenn by Nulatel of Skywatch. Loyal citizens of Auridon, I have the pleasure of being an advisor to Her Royal Majesty, Queen Ayrenn I, Eagle Primarch of the Old Mary Dominion, High Queen of the Somerset Isles, Overfriend of the Royal Camoran House of the Wood Elven People, and boon companion to the Mane of the Khajiit. As Royal Advisor, I have penned this brief account of Queen Ayrenn's life and history. Read that you might welcome our Queen into your hearts. Her Majesty spent her early days as many children do in the Isles. She trained in blades beside her father. She rode horses into the surf along our golden beaches, and she memorized history and sonnets beneath soft pink petals. Over 20 years ago, your forward-thinking king, His Royal Majesty King Hydeleth of Alanor, may he ever be honored in Aetherius, gathered with the royal family at the Crystal Tower in celebration of Her Majesty's passage into the Labyrinth. This time of intensive study has been required by all Somerset rulers in the past, and Her Majesty was to step into that period with arms wide. As the hour approached, however, the then princess was found missing. While a long search was begun, in truth Her Majesty had claimed her own destiny. Her Majesty had stolen away to the Isle of Balferia to live with the Drenni at the Adamant Tower. The members of that clan trained her in the art of war. They turned her simple, noble swordplay to lithe and seasoned blade dancing. Her beachside rides became forced marches on horseback, and her singing of sonnets beneath the trees of her homeland gave way to the study of the arts most arcane. Much has been made of our Queen's adventures in Tamriel by bards and common broadsheet scribes. Yes, it's true that she once rode a bear, that she hunted the frost trolls of Skyrim, delved into the deeps of a dwarven ruin, crewed with a pirate captain in Cyrodiil. Her Majesty once flew upon an enormous kite on the winds of the Alakir Desert and danced with nereids in the Elysian Hills. These adventures were not the larks of a wanton, but instead a deliberate process, the tempering of a blade. And when His Majesty King Hydeleth passed away, when it looked as though our remote isles would be left to flounder in the swell of history, Princess Ayrenn returned. Her Majesty plucked the crown from where it lay fallen in the dust. She took up her father's sword and led us out into the world. Led us out into the world to find new allies waiting just off our shores. The Queen's connections to the noble Wood Elves and fierce Khajiit enabled us to form the mighty Dominion that now stands astride our corner of Tamriel, poised to strike at the dark heart of Cyrodiil and ward off the depredations of the warmongering alliances of the North. Though she has her detractors and cowards to fame her courage from behind a veil, Queen Ayrenn is the living, beating heart of the Dominion. Our fortune and prosperity depend on her. Varieties of Faith, the High Elves, by Brother Mikhail Karoxor of the Imperial College. The Eight. Though few Altmer outside the Empire accept the limitation of the Divines to that number. Auriel, King of the Altmer. The Elven Akatosh is Auriel. Auriel is the soul of Anuiel, who in turn is the soul of Anu, the Everything. He is the chief of most of the Altmeri pantheons. Most Altmeri and Bosmeri claim direct descent from Auriel. In his only known moment of weakness, he agreed to take his part in the creation of the mortal plane, that act which forever sundered the Elves from the spirits' worlds of eternity. To make up for it, Auriel led the original Altmer against the armies of Lorkhan in mystic times, vanquishing that tyrant and establishing the first kingdoms of the Altmer, Altmora and Old Elenfe. He then ascended to heaven in full observance of his followers, so that they might learn the steps needed to escape the mortal plane. Magnus, the god of sorcery, Magnus withdrew from the creation of the world at the last second, though it cost him dearly. What is left of him on the world is felt and controlled by mortals as magic. One story says that, while the idea was thought up by Lorcan, it was Magnus who created the schematics and diagrams needed to construct the mortal plane. He is sometimes represented by an astrolabe, a telescope, or more commonly, a staff. Trinimac, strong god of the early Altmer, in some places more popular than Auriel. He was the warrior spirit of the original elven tribes that led the armies against men. Boethia, it is said, to have assumed his shape. In some stories, he even eats Trinimac, so that he could convince the throng of Aldmer to listen to him, which led to their eventual Chimeri conversion. Trinimac vanishes from the mythic stage after this, to return as the dread Malakath. Altmeri propaganda portrays this as the dangers of Dunmeri influence. Ifre, god of the forest. While Auriel Time Dragon might be the king of the gods, Ifre was revered as the spirit of the now. According to the Elves, after the creation of the mortal plane, everything was in chaos. The first mortals were turning into plants and animals and back again. Then Ifre transformed himself into the first of the Elimfe, or Earthbones. After these laws of nature were established, mortals had a semblance of safety in the new world because they could finally understand it. Xarxes. Xarxes is the god of ancestry and secret knowledge. He began as a scribe to Auriel and kept track of all the Aldmeri accomplishments, large and small, since the beginning of time. He created his wife Ogma from his favorite moments in history. Mara, goddess of love. Nearly universal goddess, Origin started in the mythic times as a fertility goddess. She is sometimes associated with Nur of the Anuad, the female principle of the cosmos that gave birth to creation. For the Altmer, she is the wife of Auriel. Stendar, god of mercy, god of the compassionate and righteous rule. In early Altmeri legends, Stendar is the apologist of men. Sirabane, warlock's god. An Aldmeri god ancestor of magic, Sirabane aided Bendu Olo in the fall of the Slode. Through judicious use of his magical ring, Sirabane saved many from the scourge of the Thracian plague. He is also called the Apprentice's god, for he is the favorite of the younger members of the Mages Guild. Additional deities with significant Altmer cults. Finister, hero god of the Somerset Isles, who taught the Altmer how to live naturally another 100 years by using shorter walking stride. Lorcan, the missing god. This creator, trickster, tester deity is in every Talmeric mythic tradition. His most popular name is the Aldmeri Lorcan, or Doomdrum. He convinced or contrived the original spirits to bring about the creation of the mortal plane, upsetting the status quo, much like his father Padome had introduced instability into the universe in the beginning place. After the world is materialized, Lorcan is separated from his divine center, sometimes involuntarily, and wanders the creation of Et Ada. He and his metaphysical placement in the scheme of things is interpreted in a variety of ways. To the High Elves, he is the most unholy of the higher powers, as he forever broke their connection to the spirit plane. In the legends, he is always an enemy of the Aldmer, and therefore a hero of the early mankind. Why don the veil? Good Mer, you know why to don the veil. You know in your heart the danger facing the Isles. We have been betrayed. Our leaders now bend knee to a wastrel child, a queen of cats and midgets, an adventurer given the throne by an accident of blood, a wench more fit for a cup house than a throne room. These are our lands. The High Elf, the legacy of the Aldmeri people, now must idle beneath the blooms. We must watch as flea-bitten mongrels from the steppes cavort in public like Mer. We must listen to the animal tongue of the wood spoken in our streets. We do not seek, nor did we provoke this assault on our way of life. We did not expect, nor did we invite this confrontation. The true measure of a people's strength is how they rise to master the moment when it comes upon them. Master the moment. Mer of Auridon. don the veil, rise up against this queen, against her dominion, and retake the Somerset Isles. I hope you've been enjoying these lore readings, and if you have, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Also, come follow me over on twitch.tv/ICYIC, where I stream the Elder Scrolls Online 4 days a week. I'd love to see you there. Thanks for watching.